Greetings, my guildlings. I, Coalspire, am back with another foray into the dark and decaying world of geek culture, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, I have some sad news. I did have a different podcast that was supposed to go up before this one, but because of problems with converting the files to be viewable on YouTube, I accidentally converted it to a file my own movie maker couldn't read. So, yay for trial and error, and huzzah for having a friend that knows how to get my file back without scrapping it and starting all over again. So, what do we have on the agenda for today? Well, I have a guest over again. Wendy is back and is all smiles.
Hi, how are you doing?
And we were supposed to have another guest, but he declined and decided he was too tired. So we're going to talk a little bit about a main topic of the discussion tonight is Dragon Age Inquisition. I have been almost 55 hours in, and I'm still finding stuff to do outside the main storyline to keep me entertained. If that's good or bad, we don't know. But before we get into that, let's do a little geek news. As you all know, the movie The Interview, starring Seth Rogen and James Franco, was amid a major controversy this last month, with Sony being hacked and threats from a North Korean hacker group demanding they pull the movie from theaters or there would be trouble. The group known as the Guardians of Peace have taken the credit for it. Now, you all know what's been going on. It's been in the news, flooding Facebook threads, and has blown up on Tumblr and Reddit. I'm not going to jump into that, but what I will jump into is this. The theaters that pulled The Interview, because Sony told them to, decided to express their freedoms and show the, and I'm using this term loosely, classic satire film from Trey Parker and Matt Stone called Team America: World Police. But guess what? Paramount, the people who own the rights to Team America, pulled the films from those few theaters and told them they couldn't show it. What? Seriously? That is some bullshit if I've ever heard it. Is this the PC, SJW, pussified country that we've become? Hackers. Fucking hackers send Sony and Paramount running for the hills. Jesus H. Christ. The Guardians of Peace leak some emails from Sony and all of a sudden we give in to one of the worst dictatorships to the known world. Look, I'm not the type of person to be all, America, that's how it's done. Nor do I have a Confederate flag waving outside my home. But goddamn! Show the fucking movie and tell North Korea to shove it. These two obvious comedies are what our First Amendment is based on. And to have a government that isn't even ours silencing us just shows how far down the slope we have slipped. Thoughts? She's shaking her head because she agrees with me. Stupid. What do you guys think? Leave comments below, and maybe we can start up a discussion about how bad things have gotten. Moving on to news story number 2, and it has to do with hacking yet again. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, a hacker group known as the Lizard Squad, because they couldn't come up with anything better, decided it would be fun if the people who got new consoles and new games for Christmas couldn't play them. So imagine you are your 13-year-old self. You just opened your brand new PS4 or Xbox One and you load it up. With these consoles having been out for a year already, there are bound to be immediate patches and updates to the software, right? So, being the tech-savvy genius you are at 13, you try to connect to the PSN or the Xbox Live servers and nothing. The servers are down for maintenance on Christmas Day. Why? Because some forever alone pieces of crap decided to play Scrooge for Christmas for shits and giggles. With Kim.com going so far as to try and buy off the Lizard Squad with Platinum Live accounts to get Xbox Live back up. This is just stupid, in my opinion. There was nothing to gain by doing this. You can't claim you did it publicly to your friends. Why? Because if you did, your friends would call you a fucking asshole and punch you in the dick, which would get a standing ovation from everyone around you. You get to brag to your hacker friends that you took down two of the easiest entertainment servers on Christmas. I would think even hackers have hearts and would call you a punk ass for ruining a lot of people's holiday. So what did you get for your troubles, Lizard Squad? You get to have one of the most infamous and renowned groups to come after you. That's right, for your dickery, Anonymous has declared war on Lizard Squad. Good luck, boys, you'll need it. This is the same group that found a woman killing a puppy with her heel within 2 hours, just from a picture of said shoe. Got her arrested and prosecuted. These people are scary. Taking down Westboro Baptist Church's website live on the air. The point is, everyone loves Christmas. Even hackers should have morals. And this goes to prove it. Anything to add? Again, shaking her head no.
I'm here for Dragon Age.
She's here for Dragon Age. Alright, I will pass through the news pretty quickly here. Alright, the last bit of news has to do with Magic the Gathering. I'm sorry, no more hacking stuff. This is actually something entertaining. It is spoiler season once again. Fate Reforged is the next set to come out, and there are more than a few announcements that have come from this set. So I'll go over a couple that are small, and the big one, and the one big announcement that has many players hyped. So announcement 1 is that they'll be reprinting each fetch land from cons in the Fate Reforged set. They'll make an appearance once again, and this is good news for a lot of players because it won't be so hard to get them and people won't be hoarding them as much anymore. The second part of that is, with Fate Reforged, the basic land slots will be replaced with a basic land, or one of the 10 dual life gain lands, or a Con's fetch land, like they did with Dragon's Maze. So there are more opportunities for those legendary pulls, like a foil mythic rare with a fetch land and then a normal rare. So up to 2 to 3 rares in your packs if you want to buy them that way. And on more land-based news, it has been confirmed for full art basic lands. More full art lands means the fat packs for this new set are going to be a must-have, with Zendikar's lands being such a big hit with everybody, the unhinged and unglued lands being a big hit with everybody, and the foils of those lands being ridiculously priced. It's important that we have more full art lands that everybody has been asking for. Now, with spoiler season being in full swing, the very first spoiler is still what a lot of people are talking about. Ugin, the Spirit Dragon. This Planeswalker is going to be a beast once it hits the field. The fact that he is colorless means he can be used in any number of decks, and his abilities aren't too damn shabby either. Now, the hefty price of 8 colorless mana is a lot to ask for, but with the current meta of mid-range decks, this walker is going to see play. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He starts at 7 loyalty counters, and it gets worse for your opponent from there. His +2 is basically a lightning bolt. 3 damage to target creature or player. So in essence, he starts at 9 loyalty. Your opponent better pray for an utter end or a hero's downfall real quick. Even Garruk Apex Predator would probably be a good choice. His second ability is a -X ability, and is one hell of a reset button. Exile each permanent with a converted mana cost of X or less. That's key, it's X or less. That's 1 or more colors. So he can exile planeswalkers, creatures, enchantments, and colored artifacts. No, he can't touch the lands that become elementals because of Nissa or morph creatures, but he'll hit damn near everything else. And his ulti ability, forget about it. -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. If you can't see a bonus to that, you shouldn't be playing the game. This guy was made to be Negabolus. It takes 2 unanswered turns for this ability to go off. You better pray they hit 7 lands. Anything to add?
I would definitely see this new Planeswalker as something that would make your opponents have that same reaction that you would see from Bolus, like, oh no, oh. I mean, you gotta behold the downfall to get rid of that thing. You got to be prepared, otherwise you're
Well, a downfall or overwhelming control of the board.
right. But I mean, seeing that card fall, if you don't have the right play in hand or in play, it's game over.
Game over, man. Game over.
But I'm definitely looking to the full art land as well. I prize my Zendikar full art lands, so that'll be fun to see.
Me personally, I don't care if it's full art as long as it's foil. It makes me happy.
I think it's pretty.
It's very pretty. I saw this spoiler and immediately thought it needed to go into my Super Friends deck, and you already hate my Super Friends deck, and a lot of people hate my Super Friends deck, so I know that they're going to hate it even more with an additional Planeswalker.
Does anybody like Super Friends decks unless they're playing it?
In essence, they're the same as a Sliver deck. You love them unless you're playing against them. I think doing the land slot thing is a good idea. Again, it made a lot of people happy with Dragon's Maze. It made buying a Dragon Maze pack or doing a Dragon Maze draft a lot easier on you. People already like to draft cons a lot as it is because it's a really fun set to draft. And it's also, in draft, the uncommons are the bombs, not the rares. Unless you're dealing with something like Sarkhan Vol, or Sarkhan Dragon Speaker, or Sorin. The rares and the mythics aren't really too important. It's getting those morph creatures out that can flip and do horrible things to people.
Right.
So adding land like that makes it a lot easier in draft. All right. Enough geeking out over geek news. So let's talk games. Specifically, like I stated before, Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, I was initially skeptical about this game because of the sad showing of Dragon Age 2. Now, I preface this by saying I didn't play Dragon Age 2, but I did watch somebody play the whole thing of Dragon Age 2, and I was not interested in playing it, and it was bought for me as a gift.
And that would be me that played it.
But I'm happy to say that this game has made up for the second one, and more so. Like I said before, I'm over 50 hours in, and I'm still enjoying the side quests and the story as well, but not so much. I haven't moved on to the next story phase yet. Fighting the dragons are terrifying. If you aren't prepared, the dragons make you feel it. They wreck your shit.
Yeah, you've defeated 3 dragons, and I have defeated 0 because apparently I don't have the right equipment. You have to make sure you have resistances against whatever you're going against.
Or they make you pay.
I died pretty fast.
And there's a lot of life to them, you have to admit. It's really uncanny. They change tactics, they retreat, and the power behind them is obvious when you get near them.
Well, I think it's smart. They made the dragons smart, and they didn't make it easy for you. You have to think about what you're doing, so it's not just something you go into, hack and slash, and it's over. It's actually a challenge.
There are a lot of games that don't give dragons their true... I play D&D, Wendy plays D&D. Dragons are something that we have wanted to be powerful creatures, and there are certain games that... Now, Dragon Age Origins, the one dragon that you fought at the end, you felt it.
Yeah.
You had to split up your forces, you had to do specific things. If you weren't the right class or you didn't have the right abilities, you couldn't use the ballistas to fire at the dragon. It really a pain in the ass, but it was fun.
Even using the different armies that you get at the end of Dragon Age Origins, and using ballistas and all of your high-powered characters, I still feel like these dragons are harder. There's more challenge and thought process, I guess, that's going into this, rather than just like, oh, send in this troop, oh, send in that troop, oh, go to this ballista, he's near that one. It's different.
I honestly think this is one of the best showings of a true dragon battle that I have played in a long time. On top of that, they allow you to target different parts of the mighty beasts. You can target the head, both legs, both arms. And if you damage it enough, the dragon will react by limping away or favoring the limb you injured. And if you hit one of their major limbs, like their legs, where they're putting weight on it, they actually fall over and give you a lot of free hits. It almost makes me feel bad for them, like I'm beating on a wounded puppy, but then I realize if they're going to get back up, they're going to wreck my shit, so I just continue to wail on them. I enjoy the dragon fight so much, but at the same time, when you come across a new dragon, you're like, am I high enough level for this one? I should go test it. If you're playing this game, remember to save if you get anywhere near a dragon. There are certain spots that if you get into it, it will not let you save because you're considered under attack. So you have to find that sweet spot to where you can save and then go, or kiss your ass goodbye if you're unprepared.
There's certain areas you do want to fight dragons and don't want to fight dragons, and you need to be a certain level. Like 13 is a pretty good, I think, level to play against a dragon, but you have to be careful where you go, because like you found out, the Dragon Island or whatever.
Oh God.
It has armor, and then being in the western, Anyway, is a western area over in Orlais. Is a high dragon. You definitely don't want to fight that because that's going to be even more boss than the other dragons. So.
Another thing that they added to this, like, all right, so you have the different elemental dragons. You have the lightning, the fire, the ice. The lightning ones are smart. You fight the lightning dragons around water. What the lightning dragons do is they electrify the water, and it stays electrified for a while. Like I said, the dragons in this are really, really... The AI for the dragons was really well programmed. I give them complete props for the design team. Complete props for making the dragons the way they are. They're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Something that frustrates me fighting, like the recent dragon that I fought and lost.
The term is obliterated. I watched it. It was horrible.
The thing that frustrates me is you can't just sit back afar and ping at it with a mage. They pull you in with their wings, flapping you in like a vacuum. So you have to be prepared for this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and once you start the fight, they don't like to let you run away. That's a problem.
Oh no, there is no running away.
Unless you're a rogue, you get the nifty ability of being invisible. Maybe you get away, maybe you don't. But aside from the game being called Dragon Age, there are a couple other things that I enjoy. The story is a little overwhelming at times. At least I feel it is. You start with something really grandiose, and it just keeps getting larger from there.
Well, I was kind of overwhelmed at first because it was almost like they were trying to aim towards Skyrim world, where it's way more open. But, I mean, there is more order to it than there was at the beginning. Like, at the beginning, you're like, what the hell am I doing? And
yeah.
You're just finding random things to do, and then it starts to get more constructive. So...
It's just, alright. A complaint for me is, like the first one, you're tasked with saving the world yet again. Except, alright, with the first one, they kind of built up to it. You become a Grey Warden, you stave off the Blight for a little bit, you go, and then it dumps you into go recruit the dwarves, go recruit the elves, go recruit the other humans. Blight happens, dragon appears.
Trying to recruit as many people as you can. And
well, I like the idea of the agents. The agents, I think, are fun. It's just, it's really...
And then for those people...
You're dropped into this main story right away, and it's kind of like, here, go have fun.
And for those people who don't have handbooks like we started out, you have to know that there's a difference between agents and people who can join your party. The people who are agents help you with your Inquisition, but cannot join your party.
Which we kept going, we have agents... Why can't I choose them?
Because... And it took forever to find people who were in our party until we decided, oh yeah, you can actually push triangle and go to world map instead of just hanging out in hinterlands and trying to complete it all.
Which we did not know, to start off.
Luckily, we have another friend who plays Dragon Age, and he kind of passed
Who
along.
was going to be here tonight, but he was too tired after work. It went so far as people were spending so much time where you start off in the hinterlands that they went on Facebook and said, have you guys left yet? There's so much more to do. Which there is. You can split your time between Orlais, which you could never go to before, which is the whole hoity-toity, more French
Which pissed me off in the first game because, Liliana talks, at end about Orlais, and you never understand, you just know that it's supposed to be some French higher-up kind of style place.
Yeah, or you can stay in Ferelden and deal with, the hinterlands. You can visit Redcliffe again. Now, one thing I do enjoy is there are all these little cameos from certain people. You run into Alistair again, who looks nothing like he did in the first one because he's grown up into being a king. Dagna is another one that shows up. I haven't met her yet. I'm a little bit farther along than you are, but Morgan is supposed to be in it again.
John said that Morgan was in it, that he ran across her.
Yeah, and for those of you who did play Dragon Age 2, Hawke is back. Now, if you still have your saved file from Dragon Age 2, it will load up your character of who Hawke was. If you're like me and don't have a Dragon Age 2 save file, or like Wendy and had her Dragon Age save file deleted, it's a generic big, buff, brunette-haired, mustachioed man.
Which, when I saw Hawke and we have Beric in our party, I was kind of wondering, where is Isabel, the pirate chick who was all hot and tried to sleep with everybody? You know.
Well, we can talk about the romances in a little bit. But going to the characters that can join your party, there are 9. So you do get a hefty roster of people to join your party. And just like in Dragon Age Origins, from my experience, when you level up, after a little bit, your party levels up, and the people who aren't with you also level up in kind. And speaking of Liliana, brings us to the War Room, which the War Room is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I enjoy it too.
Keeping my advisors busy, which there are 3. You get Cullen, Josephine, and Liliana. Cullen is the leader of your forces, Josephine is your politician, and Liliana is your spy. It's really well done. I love keeping them busy, and it's always a good thing that the rewards aren't overpowered, but they're not underwhelming either.
There's always places and things for you to do at the War Room, but there's also little side quests basically you send them on, and it gives you rewards and resources, which is nice.
Yeah. I think it's one of the better parts of the game. It adds a lot of character to the game.
That is how I got Dagna. There is one of the little side quests that you send one of your council on to get her. And it's the same way with one of the merchants that you get. He gives you power through different things you can get.
Having to go back and check to see if there's a mission open or a new section of the map that can be opened because of a side mission is really, it adds to it. It makes you feel like you're progressing this big thing, this big group, the Inquisition. It makes it seem like you're the head of this political power, which in essence is what the Inquisition is. Just real quick, since we've already gone this far and haven't told about what the story is, the mages and the Templars have agreed to a truce, and the heads of the mages and the Templars are going to what they're calling the Conclave, and shit goes down. The Conclave explodes, and most of the heads of the Templars and the mages are killed. And then your character's kind of dropped in there. I'm not going to get into any more because I don't want spoilers or anything like that for anybody who hasn't played it or wants to play it. But I did. There are a few things that I did find kind of jarring. We found some glitches. There's a glitch that you had. There's a glitch that John had. A glitch that I had. It's all the same glitch when Haven is. Something bad is happening to Haven, you transfer over to your character after the cutscene, and the game freezes.
Oh, yeah, when you go to fight the Red Templars or whatever.
Yeah. It happened twice to you, I think.
Yeah.
It happened once to me and once to John.
And for me and John, it didn't let us continue when we restarted up the game. We had to go to load. So we thought we lost our game, but then it was there.
Yeah. That's another thing. The autosaves take forever.
Oh, and the load screens as well.
That's, yeah. Like I said, the glitches were a little... Now, just like Skyrim, you have certain things happen. Like someone will show up and they're halfway into the ground. Someone's floating in air. An item explodes and it spins and it's just continuing to spin. Those are normal glitches. Nothing crazy like what's happened in Skyrim. But the loading screens are way, way, way too long. There are two loading screens. The first one, you get to switch between 3 different cards that give you information about random things, the codexes that you unlock and stuff like that.
Which is nice because you're bored while you're waiting for the freaking screen to load. So you're like, okay, what does this say? Flip. Yep. Okay, what does this say?
But then those cut, and you're left with a black screen. Yeah. With just the little loading thing in the
They need to
lower
leave it
hand.
up, yeah.
I would much rather have the cards up for me to read, so I have something to do while I'm waiting for these to load. Now, I understand why the loading screens are long. They're loading the entire area.
Right.
Awesome.
Or the next scene that's going to happen.
Yeah. That's the biggest loading screen. You know something's coming as a cutscene because the loading takes forever.
It's like literally like 4 or 5 minutes. But you're like sitting there going, did it freeze?
Yeah. But at the same time, for the glitches and things like that, it won't detract me from playing the game. My one biggest complaint is the character creator. This is too late in the game, and by that I mean too late in the console, for companies to put out a creator like this shit.
Yeah, this is one of the worst creators I've seen. I'm kind of disappointed.
There are too few options. And even less options if you plan on playing a female character. All the haircuts are either crops, or none, or horns, or male haircuts. I have a problem with that.
The girl haircuts are you don't get anything that seems long. You get pretty much like a very short haircut or a bun or a ponytail.
And if any of you have played the WWE games of old... The other problem I have is they didn't get the cloth to move like some of these games, like Assassin's Creed, where it doesn't stick to your legs. So if you're wearing something that is a robe or something of that nature, that it clings to the body, and it's very jarring. You meet a character first. You meet a what's her name, Mother Jacinia or something. She has a big cutscene with you, and the only thing I can focus on is they did not program her face correctly. She looks like she has literal duck lips, like her lips come out and her jaw is back.
Well, it's not just that, their skin looks greasy or leathery or something. It's really weird.
Yeah. But yeah, if you plan on playing a female character, there are very few options. Now, my first run through, I'm playing a female Dalish rogue, and the character creator allowed me to choose between an ugly plain elf or an elf that looks like she's trying to walk a street corner. Also, there are only 2 voice types. Now, in the first Dragon Age, there were 3, which it was limited. They were just starting out with it, but it was limited. There were 3. This, there are only 2, and it's only 2, and they're very indistinguishable. They sound the same.
Well, to me, there was 2... One sounded kind of butch, and the other one sounded more feminine.
And for the guys, it's the same thing. There are just 2 different sounding voices. I have a problem with that. Again, going to WWE and other character creators out there, even for fighting games, there's at least 5 different voice types. So,
speaking more about the character creator, we actually even have a friend who said he will never ever play this because he came over and tried the character creator and it pissed him off so bad because of how bad it is that he said he's never going to play the game. Which I don't think is fair for the game.
It's not something that stops me from playing the game. It is a complaint I have, but I've grown accustomed to the way my character looks, and I've grown accustomed to the way my character sounds.
Exactly, but it just goes to show how bad it actually is that somebody would say.
And the reason I have a problem with the voices for the characters that you create is because the voice acting of this game is spot on. You can tell that the people that they got to do the voice acting and the people that they got to come back to do certain voices wanted to be there. I know there have been a couple people who are like, well, the Grey Warden you get, his voice character actor it sounds like he phoned it in.
Blackwall?
Yeah, Blackwall. He's supposed to be that I stay away from type people, so he's supposed to be, hermitish and not really expressive. He's a Grey Warden. Well, but other than that, the story that is told through voice acting and things like that are really, really well done. And I would have liked to have been able to have a different interaction with each different character. At this point, if I want to make a different character, I have to make a guy, which I don't have a problem with.
Yeah, you could be with Dorian.
But it's going to be, gruff voice or soft-sounding guy.
Yeah.
And speaking of being with Dorian, that drops us into our next topic, which is the romance options, which were really fun in the first one.
Which I found is actually kind of harder to get people in bed in this one. You had to work for it in the first one, but...
No, Zevran, you drop into bed right away.
You just pretty much come to agreement, and you're like, okay. But this one, there's lots of kissing scenes, and you have to keep, it's like the first one where you have to keep winning their approval, and
and at a certain point it stops. The approval stops, and you have to start doing other things, like getting their approval through conversations.
Right.
The romance options seem a lot larger this time around. Like we were saying, it takes a little bit longer. There are a few characters you can actively try and woo, and what I mean by a few is there are 12. 13 if you count the scout. You can woo any of your 9 party members. You can woo Cullen. You can woo Josephine. Oh, I'm sorry. It's only 11. You cannot woo Liliana.
Yeah.
But they won't take the next step. There are some of them that they won't take that next step if you are a certain sex, which is like the first Dragon Age. Zevran swung both ways, Morrigan swung both ways, Liliana and Alistair not so much. But there are more in this that will go both ways. Dorian, for example. I was trying really hard to get involved with him because Dorian is a really great character.
He's very charismatic.
You get to do small side quests with them, and when you get your relationship high enough with them. I took part in one of these side quests, and I was privy to what I could only be called as a coming out to his father. And the scene was dramatic, it was heart-wrenching, and you could swear to God they were going to animate Dorian crying with some of the points that they were doing. The writers got the emotion captured perfectly, and the voice actors were amazing. So I learned he's gay, which again don't have a problem with.
And you can question him about, and then he's very blunt. He's like, "How do I have to break it down to you?" He's like, "I only enjoy the company of men."
Sex with men, yes. On the flip side, Sarah, a plucky friend of Red Jenny.
She's got a crazy attitude. I don't know about her.
Like I said, she's part of the friends of Red Jenny that you meet in the first one.
Right.
Or possibly Red Jenny herself. It's never really. It's alluded to she is. It's never really.
She says she's
confirmed.
not, but I think she's the head of it.
But she's all about the vag.
Oh yeah,
only girls.
She only likes girls. So.
Josephine goes for both, and so does Iron Bull, and I think there's one more in there that I didn't really look up. But I love the world of diversity that Dragon Age has. They don't rub it in your face. I know when Dragon Age first started to come out, a lot of people were talking about SJWs and how Dragon Age was pandering to them by putting in a pansexual or a bisexual, which was what they really are, by having them being able to switch, gender, not genders, but switch, you're a female character, they like them, but in the next playthrough you're a male and they like you too. It's not... The game reveals it, and it's not the driving force of the characters, and that's really important.
Well, and people have to remember, that was what we had in the first game, too, so it's not like they're just catering to these genders. It's like, no, they've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
It's not new. But what I was going to say is I was kind of excited about Iron Bull being different. He's not like the normal Quinari that you meet in the previous games.
He is not Sten whatsoever.
Like, Sten was cold, and he was like, grunting pretty much. Like, no, Iron Ball's talkative, he's charismatic, he doesn't understand, why he would have to breed with only Quinari, being that, they want to keep it in, their bloodline and not crossbreed or whatever, but he doesn't care. He's really cool, and I even saw you have that drinking contest basically with him, and
it's if you get the chance to get through this, develop a relationship with all of them. Don't try, because all right, when you get into a relationship with someone, depending on who it is, they all say we have to keep it quiet. Guess what? Everybody knows. It doesn't matter. If you start to like someone else, like, okay, you're interested in you're playing my game. I have a relationship with Warden Blackwell, but I'm also interested in Sarah. I go to Sarah to see I want to spend more time with her. She straight out tells me, then you need to deal with Blackwell because I don't like being second. I don't like vacationers.
Right, and as a female, Blackwell is the first person that becomes available, basically, for...
Well, Cullen takes a little bit of work.
Well, I flirted with everybody, and he was the first person that came up with being more interested right away. And then Cullen was my second, and I was more interested in Cullen.
And you dropped Warden Blackwell like he was a bad habit.
Yes. And luckily I did it in time, because apparently once you get further in, you can't.
Sarah finally, I will give my example. Sarah finally is interested in my character. I want to do something with her, but I can't until I break up with Blackwell. My character is in so much of a relationship with Blackwell that I have to get him to completely disapprove of me to even break it off. So I am staying, I guess you could say staying faithful to Blackwell, and for my next playthrough, if I play a female again, I'll focus on Sarah. We are getting way too deep into relationship politics of a video game. And I believe we are getting down to the last few minutes here. Is there anything you wanted to add about your experiences with Dragon Age? Any last thoughts?
I'm enjoying it quite a bit, but we mentioned before to ourselves that we wish that there was some kind of a tumble ability like they have in Dragon Age, or not Dragon Age, Diablo.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
It's so annoying. You wish you could just use your right...
The right analog stick.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been playing Diablo Ultimate Evil Edition constantly before we started playing Dragon Age. And Wendy started playing Dragon Age before I did. I was still playing Diablo because I was having fun leveling up and doing the Paragon levels and stuff like that.
Which we also play with one of our friends quite often. So.
Yeah. So I start playing Dragon Age and I'm like, cool, this is cool. My instinct when an enemy swings at me is to hit that right analog stick to roll out of the way. So instead of doing that, my camera went straight up and I had to fix it before I could see who I was fighting, and I almost died. There is an ability to dodge out of the way. It's for rogues only. It's parry. It's an ability you have to earn.
Okay.
I don't like that. They could have used a dodge function, because the way that this works is it's still pretty much the same fighting mechanic as Dragon Age 2. You can use it as an action-adventure type thing and a button masher. Or they do introduce that whole strategy thing that they did with the first one, where you do the 3/4 view.
Another complaint I would say is the granny walk to run like fucking badass out of hell. And then when you stop, you just go, look like you're going to fall over.
But back to the dodging thing. Alright, you don't use the D-pad for anything unless you're choosing something. Unless you're moving through your characters in the inventory screen.
Right.
You don't use it for anything. They could have mapped a dodge roll, because your characters, the way that they're programmed, is they go through their fight motion and then they can act again.
Mm-hmm.
There are enemies that have area effects that cause you to fall down, which is great because if you do that to an enemy, you get some free stabs in and it takes more damage from them. The problem is you have no recourse to avoid that. You have to be prepared for it, or else you're going to get hit by it anyway. So there's no, like in Diablo, the enemy is about to hit you. You can tell because they go through their attack motion and you can dodge out of the way and they miss you. This,
Right.
you have no choice but to take it because you've already hit to imbue your weapons with poison, or you've already started to cast lightning bolt or something. You have no choice but to take it. The walk to the run is very jarring because you want to walk around Haven when you first get there, and you want to take in the sights because it's very beautiful. It's very well programmed. But you go from taking 2 steps into full-on run, and it's really pointless to have the walk animation. If you're going to just have a run, just have a run. If you want to walk, you literally have to barely move the left analog stick. And I do mean barely. If you push it a little bit too hard, you instantly run. So I screw walking. I've run everywhere ever since.
And then one of the other things, I don't know if I'm sure you've noticed this. X is for jump, but it's also to examine and pick up things and stuff like that. So it's so annoying because you're like, oh, L for jump. Oh, okay. Trying to pick this up. Jump. No. Okay.
It's...
You have to be locked in basically on something and hit X before you pick something up.
Yeah, I mean, it's small things like that, but overall, I do believe the game is a decent game. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being Sonic Riders, 10 being Skyrim sans glitches, this is, I would say, a solid 9, maybe, depending on how you feel about the character creator, possibly an 8. This is for a role-playing fan, for a role-playing game enthusiast, for anybody who likes action, adventure, or the fantasy setting. This is a must-own.
Yeah, I still enjoy the hell out of this game, and I definitely enjoy having it part of my collection.
Well, you're welcome. Anything else?
No, I think that wraps it up.
No? Okay. I have one small thing. The crafting system is amazing. One downside. Again, comparison to Skyrim. The weapons and items you craft in Skyrim, if you get really, really good at it, can make your money back quintuply.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't.
You craft in this game, and they sell for shit.
You get like 2 gold back.
2 gold, maybe 4. Crafting needs to be boosted. You're making weapons that are better than possibly anything you can find in the game.
Gold is so hard to come by in this game.
So crafting needs to be fixed. But with that said, that is all the time we have this week, my guildlings. I'd like to thank my guest, Wendy.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for sitting there and listening for 45 minutes to us rambling on about Dragon Age mainly. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook. And as the great Michelangelo once said, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for a late pizza. Have a good night, everybody.